Good morning. This is MJ from Linus Publications. Today, what we're going to be touching on is the United States chart. Now, we're going to be very specific in that we want to capture it right around the July 5th timeframe. So we're not going to be deviating too much from that point, which is why you don't see a lot of activity on the chart. Now, I will cover a few things that are beyond that, but in general, we're going to be focused right in on that. And the reason for that time frame, I've been doing a few charts for that time frame already, and it seems that it might be important. So let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. First thing I want to cover is that the transits are on the outer ring here, and the United States chart is in the inner ring. This is, as I noted, July 5th. This is the natal chart in here. We will look at the progression. We'll look at the solar arc also. I want to note, because some people have asked me about it, for the United States chart, I use the time of 4:50. There are other times and other people use different times, and that's fine. You use what works for you to be able to interpret a chart as accurately as you can. This time seems to work very well for me. Now, let's take a look at the first angle we're going to look at, the configuration. We have Pluto making an inconjunct, which is a break and adjust to Venus in the United States chart. As I've noted before, Pluto is typically, when it's making a transit, it's bringing in power, it's bringing in manipulation. In some cases, if it's a good angle, it can bring in the better parts of that, meaning the building of a foundation or the building of something permanent, lasting. In this case, though, it's bringing power in, and the intent is not to build it up. So what is that power being brought into? Venus. In this case, Venus is the ruler of the 11th house. And the 11th house is the house of representatives. It's the place where we have our communities, social communities, our religious types of activities, more or less like charities from that respect. It also involves the 6th house, which is, if you think of it, it's workers. And just by saying workers, you might have a clue as to where this is going. Right now, we have what? We have parts of the government rounding up people without warrants. These people that are doing the rounding up are wearing face masks. They're meant to instill fear into the country. So this is impacting the people directly. Venus is, I think of it as the social grace that ties people together. So it's our lifestyles. That's being directly impacted. Now, this is in a retrograde motion, which means that already it goes forward and then it goes back and then it goes forward again. It has already hit Venus once when it went forward. Now it's coming back and it's hitting it again. It will hit it again a third time. So we're not through with this. And it's a very deep type of pattern that this pulls out. Now we also have Jupiter making some angles. Jupiter is going to make an angle to Venus, a conjunction, and it's making that on the 23rd of June. Now, Jupiter's normally thought of being, very buoyant, adds optimism. It inflates things. And it still might do that to Venus, but what it might do is it actually might expand it to actually cause more problems. So this could be Jupiter expanding, in effect, the people that maybe are out there protesting. So it could make it more protesters, expansion, which would cause what? Possibly Pluto coming down harder. So something to watch for. Now, Jupiter does provide opportunities, but again, it's opportunities in expansion. In some cases, you don't want to expand. Okay. Now, the next thing is that Jupiter will be hitting Jupiter. Now, it is doing that on 7/5. So it's actually hitting it right at the time of this chart. Jupiter, again, is expansion. Now, Jupiter itself rules the first house. First house is the nation. It's the people of the nation. So it's their idealism. It's what we're standing for. It's the identity. So this likely is going to add a inflation of what people in the United States stand for. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good or bad, because in troubled times, Jupiter can add, in effect, the more fuel to a fire by making people too optimistic about something they should probably be a little bit more realistic about. Now, Jupiter is also going to make a break and adjust angle to the ascendant. And that's why sometimes maybe we shouldn't be that optimistic, because this is stating, in effect, Jupiter making that type of angle is, in effect, breaking that faith, maybe, of the people of the states, of the United States, of where we currently are. So maybe this is something that comes along and says, oh, we may be in trouble here. Okay. So sometimes Jupiter, I think of Jupiter as letting the frogs or the lobster or whatever sit in the water and literally be boiled before they realize they're being boiled. Sometimes you get too optimistic. So now it's going to touch on that ascendant at around the 15th of July. So let's take a look at our next one, which is the progression. Now, in this case, progression has nothing, and that's fine. There are things there, but it's not at this July 5th period, so that's okay. Now, let's take a look at the last one, and this is the solar arc. The solar arc does have stuff. So let's take a look at what the solar arc has. First, and most importantly, Pluto is making a square to Jupiter. Now, I wanted to cover this, even though it's not happening this year. It's actually going to happen next July 4th, actually July 3rd. So what does this mean? It's the power, it's the manipulation, and it's too arrogant. It's too overbearing. It's condescending. But it's also bringing in cults. And that's what Jupiter is. So here's a possible place where we may be cutting down or sort of coming to the root of something. And that's Jupiter, which is that just overexpansion. And overexpansion here could be the extreme right, the extreme left. So it could be a time that this is being addressed. The problem is it's the powers that be, and it's sort of sitting in the 10th house, which is denoting the leader of the country. So this is not it's not a great sign. And again, Jupiter's involved. So this could be a case where are people too optimistic? And does something finally come around and say, and sort of tap that down? And is it too late at that point? Now let's take a look at another angle here. And this is going to be the sun squaring Mars here. Sun here, squaring Mars. Now that's actually going to be happening next year also. That's going to be around March 4th in 26. So when we have the sun squaring Mars, challenges, ego conflicts, authority is in effect, creating conflicts. There's hostility. So this is not ending anytime soon. People may think, oh, if he's removed from power, everything will go back to normal. No, it's not. This is a process that, depending on what configurations are coming up, we'll see what is being worked on. We're not seeing things to build up a country again yet. We're not seeing that. And Jupiter, while it can give a momentary benefit, we need something like Pluto, we need Neptune, Uranus coming in to do that. So we talked about the sun against Mars. Now, let's take a look at Jupiter trying the sun. Now, this actually seems, and this is on 7/5, and this is pretty much exact. So that's going to be happening right around July 2nd of this year. That is slightly positive. But it does tend to bring in, again, the expansion. And that can be good. But there are nothing else here telling me that what is it expanding out? It's a trine. Okay, so that's good. Here, are we overestimating the resources? Are we overestimating what the results can be? Now, it can bring out new ideas, new ways to deal with things. But what I'm worried about is that this is actually going to foster a thought process that is sort of like, okay, everything's just going to be okay. We don't do anything about it, but everything's going to be okay. And the longer we let something move along like this, the more it won't be okay. The more we'll be stuck in that pattern. And the more difficult it will be to change things. Now, let's take a look at another. We talked about the Pluto with Jupiter. We talked about the Jupiter trying the sun and the sun squaring the Mars. So what I want to add here is that whatever happens is not going to finish this year. So we may have incidents now, we may have an incident in the fall, but it's still going to bring up incidents next year. There's going to be possibly power plays. So even if Trump is removed, it doesn't solve the problem. Is it going to be solved next year? Probably not. Pluto, actually, I have to go back to my other chart, which is this one. Pluto still has to go, and it has to get past the Jupiter in conjuncts. Right now it's doing Venus, it will do Jupiter. So that's going to take a little bit more time. I'm not going to get into dates right now on that. And then we're going to have Pluto doing an inconjunct to the sun. That's further on out. That's at 13 degrees. So it's got a ways to go. So what is that? Well, sun, in this case, rules the ninth. I expect that it'll be a time that maybe at that point we will start healing a little bit. But healing in the form of action on the legal system. Okay, maybe on tariffs. So it would be what the ninth house is involved with. But it has to get past that to be able to get that. So we've got a long way to go. Doesn't mean at this point that it's unsurpassable, but it's still a ways. Thank you for listening and have a great day. Bye now.